Hello and welcome to the second in the would you want to be an HGV driver if you knew the truth about it all sort of vlog blog type of thing. Like I say, I'm not used to doing these. This is only the second one of these I've ever done, so I'm not au fait with the way that it works. The one thing that I do like about this though is, and I think it's going to remain like this, is going to be very little editing in it, and I'm basically just going to waffle on about what it's like to be an HGV driver, give you guys out there that are not HGV drivers a bit of an heads up and a bit of an insight into what the job actually entails. We spoke about it yesterday, about the job being a thankless job where a lot of the British public hate you. They think they can't stand the wagons and what have you. They're overtaking this, that, the other, and then the fact that everything that comes that's around you, the car that you drive, the motorbike you ride, the clothes that you put on to ride your motorbike, every accessory that you can put in your car, everything in your house, including the bricks, the concrete, everything. Usually, if you just look round wherever you're sat now, everything that you can see came on a truck. Apart from the earth below your feet and the sky above your head, everything came on a truck. Like I'm looking out of the window now, I can see alarm boxes on other people's houses, came on a truck. The chimney pot on the top of that house came on a truck. The aerial came on a truck. The parasol that I can see in the neighbour's garden came on a truck. The hot tub in my back garden came on a truck. It's just everything in your life depends on, let's say, 7.5 ton up. The little transits, and I've heard this as a bit of an argument as well in the pub, which will actually make you giggle when you think about it. There was a woman who was saying about HGV drivers and what have you, and what a pain they are and all this. And I said to her, right, okay then, love. I said, well, you tell me, give us a solution. I said, instead of just complaining, give me a solution. She said, well, why can't they put it all on them little transit vans? I just smiled and I just said to her, I said, I've just sit and think about what you've just said. And she went, well, the little vans, they don't take as much room up, do they? I said, no. I said, but they do. I said, if you think about it. I said, because, believe it or not, I said, it takes 13 transit vans, that's 13 for the equivalent of an Arctic trailer. To carry the same amount of equipment, you would need 13 vans of that size. I said, so for every Arctic you take off the road that you don't like, you would have to add 13 white van men. I said, so you need 13 more drivers than that one HGV driver. I said, you're doing 13 times the amount of damage to the road. Obviously the truck is bigger, so they do more damage, but on the balance, I would say the tranny vans would do more damage to the environment and the road because you've got 13 engines running instead of one. So people, I don't think they realise, I don't think they do it on purpose, but I think they're just naive of what it actually entails to move goods from one place to another. It's all right putting your Amazon package in a transit van to deliver 100 round the local area, but bearing in mind, packages on an articulated lorry of Amazon, you could have up towards 100,000 packages on that, which will then go out to 100 little vans because of the size of the packages and what have you. So it's a really like emotive subject, or it can be. Right, but what we actually came on today to talk about, and what I mentioned last time, was the Driver CPC. So now I've finished doing that little bit of a waffle, what we'll do is we'll get on to the CPC. The CPC is a vocational requirement to be able to perform as an HGV driver. Now what I'm going to say to you now, like I said yesterday when I was talking about, and I said I don't sugarcoat it, shitting in a carrier bag. The thing of the Driver CPC is, I'm going to put it this way, it's the biggest load of bollocks I've ever come across in the history of driving a truck. All it was invented by EU bureaucrats to make a few people, an handful of people, 50 people, 100 people across Europe, multi-millionaires. Because all these companies that run the CPC courses now, and the CPC courses, a lot of them also do the medicals, and other sorts of stuff. But them are the other things that I'm going to go into, because it's going to blow your brains out. The amount of stuff that you have to do to be an HGV driver, you wouldn't want to do it. You just wouldn't want to do it. The amount of messing about. If you get up in the morning and you go and you work at Tesco's or at B&Q or at any factory, you go and you'll do a little bit of health and safety training, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. The amount of hoops that you have to jump through to be an HGV driver, and the amount of hoops that you have to jump through on a daily basis, seriously, a lot of people just wouldn't do it, and they won't do it. And that's why we're having to drag, or we have been able to drag drivers in from abroad where they don't have to do the same amount of jumping through hoops as we do, because unlike other countries like France and what have you, the EU used to put rules out and France used to take notice of the ones that they wanted to take notice of. Us being British, we're like, yeah, we'll do it. And then what we do is we do everything to the absolute letter and make people who drive trucks make their life a nightmare doing it. And that's what sort of thing that I'm going to go into over, probably, this is going to stretch out for weeks and weeks, I would have thought, because I'm going to go into drivers' hours and stuff like that. And at the end of it, to be honest with you, I don't think there's going to be many of you that are going to go, yeah, I want to be an HGV driver. But it can be changed, and the government can change it, and the other parts of the employers and what have you can make the job a lot better and make it more attractive. But at the moment, it seriously isn't attractive. So back to the Driver CPC. It's 35 hours of vocational. Well, basically, it's supposed to be education, but what they're doing across 90% of it is teaching your gran how to suck eggs. What they're doing is they're teaching you stuff that you've got to know as a driver anyway. You've got to know it. You've got they advertise that they're going to do your hours, teach you about your hours. Well, you have to do your hours. You have to study your hours to do your theory test. You have to know your hours to be an HGV driver. So basically, what they're doing is they've made another level of bureaucracy for a driver to go through, so as he knows what he knows anyway. It's like, say you work as a parking meter attendant, so you're going around writing parking tickets. So it's like me making you have a licence to go and learn. So basically you've then got to go and learn every year how to write a ticket out. And obviously, if you don't know how to write a ticket out, you wouldn't have a job. So it's that stupid. That is how stupid the Driver CPC is. First aid. You do a basic first aid course on one of the days, teaching you how to do CPR and all that sort of stuff, which, all right, I can understand that everybody in the country should learn how to do that, but that should be your responsibility as a citizen. It should have nothing to do with the fact that you can drive an HGV truck or not. There was another one that we did, which was, again, the biggest load of garbage I've ever come across in my life. They're showing us how tyres were made, how HGV tyres were made. Now, with the greatest of respect, I don't buy the tyres for my truck. They're put on by the company. I inspect those tyres every day to make sure that they're in a good condition and that they're roadworthy. Why do I need to know anything else other than that? We got a memorandum about the 10-year tyre law, which came because of the coach, where the tyre was over 10 years old and exploded and it killed some people. That should never have been allowed in the first place. But again, that's the thing of the British government. Because it's big companies and they've got a lot of lobbying power, they turn a blind eye. They turn a blind eye to stuff that they shouldn't turn a blind eye to. So let's say we're doing our CPC for the first time and we've just passed our test. We're going to the worst case scenario, which I'm not 100% au fait with today's rules, because they've changed them all since COVID, haven't they, over the last couple of weeks. So I really need to get in and find out the facts on what they've changed and how they've changed the rules of how you can become an HGV driver to get round the bureaucratic crap they created in the first place, which they should never have done at all. What they should have done was left it the way that it was. You did a theory, you did your class 2, and then you did your class 1. So your class 2, you had grandfather rights on your normal driving licence to drive a 7.5 tonner, which in my eyes, because I'm an HGV driver, is just a big dinky toy. Your 17.5 tonner, they taught you, so you had to do a licence for your 17.5 and a licence for your thingy for your class 1. So you had 2 lots of instruction, 2 lots of learning to do of the 2 different ones, because obviously for class 1 you really do need some good lessons and some good education, because that bendy bit when you're trying to reverse can be an absolute nightmare until you've got some really good experience doing it. So yeah, where were we at? Yeah, so if you're doing your driver CPC, like I said, we'll take it from the worst case scenario. You're going to be looking at 35 hours vocational training. So that 35 hours vocational training is going to cost you about £100 a day. So that's 5 days, £100 a day, that's £500. So that's 500 quid for that first bit. But what you're not taking into account, or you've not thought of, or you might have done, seeing as I've mentioned it, and you might have clocked onto it, is what about the wages that you've lost while you're actually sat in that classroom doing that. So let's say you're an HGV driver already, so what we're going to do is count your HGV wages into it, because you're going to be losing that anyway, because you've got to sit down and do this vocational training. So the lads that are on good money now are on about £20 an hour, so you've lost £200 plus the £100, so that's £300 a day. So £300 a day, 5 threes, so 3 5s are 15, so that's 1,500 quid. That's what it's cost you out of your pocket, your own pocket, to go and do that vocational training. And that's before we even come on to doing your theory test. If you're going to do your driving licence, your HGV now, you're going to have a theory test, so you're going to have to study for that. You're going to have time off work or study in the evenings to do that. That's up to you. Then you're going to have lessons and a test on your thingy. Worst case scenario, again, I think they've changed this over the last couple of weeks. I think you don't have to do the 7.5, but you'd have to do a test and your lessons in a 7.5. You'd have to do your tests and your lessons in a 17.5, which is your class 2, and then you'd have to do your lessons and your test in a 44 tonner. So a 44, so that's your Arctic. So you're looking at 10 grand. You're looking at 10 grand of anybody's money to do that, and it's probably going to take you 6 months from start to finish, because obviously you've got to do the lessons and take the tests. You can do them in a week, but to be honest with you, if you did that, when you come out the other end, you still wouldn't be able to drive an Arctic properly. You need a little bit of experience as well. And then after that, just to run on from a little bit of an ending to the driver CPC, when you're all that money out of pocket, all the other things that you've got to go through on a daily basis are just unbelievable. But once you've run through on the other side of that, when you've done your CPC, what we'll talk about in the next video is driver's hours, the amount of ludicrous scrutiny that you put under, and you won't believe what we go through. And the next video will be really, really entertaining and it'll be really informative anyway. Right, so don't forget to come back to us for part 3. That's it for today, and we'll see you tomorrow.